prayers.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trust in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to their charge. Amen.
Item number 2 on the order paper, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I will come to this sitting. As you are aware, we amended our rules of procedure to shift Prime Minister's question time from 3 o'clock on Wednesdays to now 4 o'clock on Thursdays. So today is Prime Minister's question time that will commence at 4 o'clock for an hour.
Number
Honorable members, on a sad note, the Honorable John Chrysostom Muyingo has lost his mother, the late Victoria Nachiwala Sekide. Requiem Mass will be on Saturday 16th September at Rubaga Cathedral at 10 a.m. Burial is Sunday, 17th September at Kakola Bamunanika at 2 p.m. May our soul rest in eternal peace. Please, let's rise to observe a moment of silence for this.
May our soul rest in eternal peace.
Next item.
Item number 3 on the order paper, statement by Minister on the poisonous cassava plants in the districts of Tororo and Busia.
Honorable Minister.
Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, this statement is in response to the concern raised by Honorable Frederick Angula, MP Toro South County, and Honorable Agon Silas, MP Kumi Municipality, on the 21st June 2016, who are MPs from Eastern Uganda. The districts of Tororo, Soroti, Bugiri, and Busia had been fatally affected by the consumption of a poisonous type of cassava, and investigations revealed that in Tororo district, 2 sub-counties of Merikiti, this is Merikiti Parish, Merikiti Village, and Lubongi sub-county, that is Panyangasi Parish, Papel Village, 2 families were affected, where 2 children died and other family members hospitalized. B, in Vijiri district, but Honorable Speaker, 5 sub-counties were affected, including Bulugui sub-county, Mowayo Parish, Butema Village. Buunga sub-county, that is in Nawanduki Parish and Nawanduki sub-county. Budaya sub-county, we had the Bukatu Parish, and in Bukatu, of course, Bukatu Village. Budaya sub-county, we had the Buungu Village in Budaya Parish. And Kapianga sub-county, we had Buswiriri village in Bugunga parish. Sadly, a total of 7 young people died and 14 adults were hospitalized. That Honorable Speaker and members, Tororo and Busia districts are among the leading cassava growing areas in eastern Uganda. Tororo district has an acreage of 27,000 hectares under cassava. Production is estimated to be 174,000 metric tons per annum. Busia district has an area under cassava of 15,137 hectares, producing 90,822 metric tons. The average yield per hectare is 6 tons per hectare. Honorable Speaker and members, varieties of cassava grown in these affected districts. Close to 80% of the total cassava grown in Tororo and Busia districts is a local bitter variety known as Magana, and 20% is of improved varieties. Magana is widely known or grown in Tororo, Busia area and stretches over western Uganda to western Kenya. The variety is also found in Tongolo in mid-western West Nile and northern Uganda, in Rutuga and Kalinga in western Uganda. The improved high-yielding varieties grown in the districts include Nase 3, which is popularly known as Megera, Nase 14, and TME 104. Cyanide content. Right Honorable Speaker and members, cyanide is an anti-nutritional element found mainly in cassava, but it's also found in other things. At high levels, it can be poisonous. Magana is a bitter cassava variety with a high cyanide content in the range of 200 to 300 ppm. At the age of 6 to 12 months, in case it is harvested young. The cyanide content reduces to about 150 ppm. ppm, right Honorable Speaker and members, is parts per million. It's a measure of poison. At around 1.5 years, and it reduces further to 80 to 100 ppm at 3 years. According to the Codex Alimentarius food standards, the safe limit for presence of cyanide in food is only 10 ppm. Processing. If the Magana cassava variety is to be processed into flour, it must be peeled, sliced, and heaped for 5 to 7 days to allow fermentation to break down the cyanide content to a safe range of 10 ppm. After 7 days of fermentation, the molds are scraped off, the cassava slices, and sun-dried to 13% moisture content, and then milled into flour, safe for consumption. Cassava poisoning. Cassava poisoning, right Honorable Speaker and members, can occur when Magana is harvested as fresh roots and then boiled for consumption. This is lethal, and for this reason, sale of fresh roots of this variety on the market is not recommended. It is advised that this variety be processed into flour at household level before putting it on the market. However, even with processing, the levels remain higher than 100 ppm, especially in younger cassava and during the dry season. These, when consumed without processing or after poor processing, will result into cyanide poisoning, disturbance of the thyroid function, and neurological disorders. In addition, Right Honorable Speaker and members, improper fermentation of magana for 1 to 3 days is also the major cause of slow cyanide poisoning, especially in periods of hunger or food shortage. Cyanide poisoning can lead to goiter, paralysis of the legs, and the presence of deep yellow-red urine in affected persons. Symptoms of cassava poisoning. Right Honorable Speaker, in humans, the signs of acute cyanide intoxication include rapid respiration, drop in blood pressure, rapid pulse, dizziness, headache, stomach pain, vomiting, diarrhea, mental confusion, twitching, and convulsions. They tend to affect those individuals who have regular, long-term consumption of cassava with poor nutritional status. This is especially during the periods of hunger and famine, food scarcity and drought, when farmers desperately resort to immature plants of these bitter local varieties or wild plants which resemble cassava. Death due to cyanide poisoning can occur when the cyanide level exceeds the limit an individual is able to detoxify. The acute level dose of hydrogen cyanide for humans is reported to be 0.5 to 3.5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Or, if you use the ppm, 50 to 350 ppm. Children are particularly at risk because of their smaller body sizes. Right Honorable Speaker and members, the events leading to poisonous cassava death in Tororo, Bugiri, and Busia. Right Honorable Speaker, it should be emphasized that the poisonous varieties of cassava have been in the country for a very long time. Methods of preventing poisonous effects, including fermenting, as earlier said, and processing, have long been known to farmers. However, the long drought period that Uganda experienced could have pushed the communities to ages, therefore ignoring the long-known and used procedures. The affected families consumed the cassava before it matured, which contained high levels of toxins that are very dangerous to the human body. Specifically, the investigations revealed that A, the affected households uprooted immature cassava tubers, the Magana type, which is a local cassava variety, from their gardens. B, they hurriedly peeled the cassava and crushed it in 2 small pieces to hasten the drying period to less than 5 hours. And C, finally, they grounded the cassava into flour, hurriedly, thus jumping the critical steps of soaking or guided fermenting that could have reduced the toxins levels, call it cyanide, leading to the household's poisoning, thus eventual death and hospitalization. Steps taken by the ministry. This is the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal and Fisheries. The ministry followed up the report and found out the following. Report A, reported death and illness were as a result of consuming poorly processed fresh tubers of Magana cassava variety that is high in cyanide levels up to 300 ppm when still young. B, the predisposing factor was the prevailing food shortages in those districts that forced the affected victims to harvest Magana cassava variety when it was still immature, and all forego the normal processing methods traditionally well known in those areas and scientifically proven to reduce the cyanide levels to the safe limits of up to 10 ppm, as recommended by the Codex Alimentarius. Codex Alimentarius is a standard, a food standard, an international food standard, which is known by many, I think. The common processing method, Mr. Speaker, sir, involve peeling, slicing, heap for fermentation for 5 to 7 days, scraping off the molds, drying and pounding and grounding into flour. See, the affected households were in Tororo and Bugiri districts. One family in Tororo district lost 2 children. Bugiri district was the most affected. In Ibunga sub-county, 1 child died and 2 were seriously affected but later recovered. In Buruguya sub-county, Butema village, 1 child died and 3 children were seriously injured but later recovered. In Budaya sub-county, 2 children died. In Kapyanga sub-county, Namukonge parish, 1 child died. Nabukalu sub-county also had cases of affected households. Up to 80% of the cassava grown in Wujiri, Tororo, and the Busia district is of Magana cassava variety. Other districts that grow this variety are found in the West Nile districts, Lango, Tororo, and the Bunyoro sub-regions. The reasons for growing this high cyanide content cassava variety include the following. People know that stray animals cannot easily destroy this variety. 2, thieves cannot easily steal it as it needs a lot of time to process and utilize. 3, some farmers believe that poisonous varieties produce a lot of flour, which gives them more cash income. And 4, the flour from poisonous varieties is believed to have better cooking qualities in some communities. The MAIF interventions to rectify the situation. The ministry has identified immediate short-term and medium-long-term actions to rectify the situation, including, among others, 1, the immediate actions create awareness and sensitization about the risks involved in growing and eating bitter poisonous cassava varieties without proper processing through radio talk shows, field days, monitoring visits, farmer meetings, and training sessions on appropriate processing methods. Honorable Speaker, under the short-term actions, we are going to use the extension staff and the operational wealth creation in the affected districts to provide planting materials for low cyanide, or call it sweet cassava varieties, for planting in the second season 2017. In fact, we have started loading these varieties to these districts. NADS OWC will provide 2.4 billion for provision of low cyanide cassava, billion shillings for provision of low cyanide cassava, which is a high-yielding planting materials to all districts in the country, and to make special arrangements for the affected districts. For Tororo, Busia, Bugiri, they will receive 2,000 bags of cassava planting materials of NASE 14, NASE 19, NAROCAS 1, for planting 250 acres of cassava in each district. The initial plan is to have at least 10 acres of cassava mother gardens for the sweet cassava varieties in every parish for the affected districts. The host farmers will establish mother gardens and will be closely monitored and followed up to ensure proper establishment, crop growth, inspection, and certification of planting materials to be produced. We have started, and I have also been on the ground in this regard, sir. It is estimated that 30,000 bags of stem cuttings materials will be produced after 12 months of planting, ready for distribution to the farming communities to reduce on acreages of bitter or poisonous Magana variety. The 30,000 bags of cuttings per district we shall have an additional, we produce an additional 3,750 acres of cassava after 1 year. The mother gardens will be raised for 2 ratoon crops to give an additional 30,000 bags in the second and third year of the crop. OWC NADs must buy off this planting material from the certified mother gardens for the affected districts of Tororo, Bugiri, Busia, to progressively increase the acreages of sweet cassava varieties. By the end of the third year, this intervention will provide an additional 11,250 acres each, a total, therefore, giving a total of 33,750 acres for the 3 districts of sweet cassava varieties in these affected districts. This will markedly reduce the available acreage of bitter or high cyanide cassava varieties. Work with the stakeholders, notably OPM, to strengthen food security surveillance and undertake timely remedial actions, including awareness creations and timely food relief to extremely affected households. It has already been done, Right Honorable. Medium to long-term actions. As part of the Agricultural Cluster Development Project, ACDP, the Ministry will support farmers, small and medium enterprises to engage in processing of quality cassava flour. The Ministry will develop and engage with other stakeholders, notably Ministry of Health, Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, on strengthening food safety control systems in the country. The Ministry will backstop the district local governments to develop ordinances and bylaws on growing, selling, processing, consumption of cassava varieties. We shall continue with the food security surveillance in the countrywide to identify vulnerable communities in the country and timely implement remedial actions to reduce the recurrence of similar incidences. Research is ongoing to continuously develop low cyanide levels cassava varieties, which are also drought and disease resistant. Conclusion, Right Honorable Speaker and members, the purpose of this communication, sir, is to update the Parliament on the steps undertaken by the Ministry to rectify the situation concerning the consumption of poisonous cassava varieties, but also inform colleagues that the problem that is being raised was a symptom of a deteriorating food security situation in the country, and indeed that was part of a coping mechanism that unfortunately turned out to be negative for those households. Furthermore, I request all members for their support in implementation of a comprehensive food security action as suggested by my ministry. Right Honorable, I wish to submit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, this was a question without notice on our Rule 39, raised by the member for Tororo County South and Honorable Ogon Silas Kumi Municipality. If they have supplementary questions in response to the answer, it would be okay.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the Minister for the report that he has given. I may not raise a supplementary, but just make a very serious observation that may not only help Tororo, but the rest of the country. I know most of our communities are cassava eating communities. For us in Tororo, whereas people may have died, but our own interrogation in the depth of this matter may have also led us to find out that the cassava that killed the people is not homegrown cassava. We have some wild cassava that at the times of difficulty that our country went through, most people were forced to also go and get that cassava. But nevertheless, we also want to agree that the cassava mosaic disease that attacked most of our people, most of our cassava within our communities, also led our people to start eating immature cassava. So we are now torn in between whether it is the immature cassava or the cassava that is not homegrown, that could have led to this problem. But I thank the minister. He came around. I moved with him. We went and visited many cassava plantations that we've now tried to open up to try and see how we can improve on the multiplication, and it is going on well. So if we can continue with this, because we now have rains, whatever has been supplied is not adequate enough. I have convinced many people to spare gardens in order for us to have as much plantation as possible to multiply for the betterment of the community at large and even the neighborhood. So the cuttings that have been supplied, Honorable Minister, I think are not enough for our people. If we can just improve on that a little, we should be able to arrest the situation, and maybe our people are also able to have something in their pocket. Last but not least, cassava NASA 14, NASA 19 that has been given is good, but there is also complaint by our people that the atapa mingled out of that cassava is light. So I don't know whether those who are doing research can improve on that such that they can be able to partake of something that can be good to them. If you are to mingle what a family can eat, you need almost half a basket. And that is also what is causing complaint and making people want to go back to the old cassava, which is causing us problem. I thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity, and I look forward to seeing that we solve this problem once and for all. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Sengo, I have guided on this matter. Are we going to debate it? Because this was an urgent question asked.
Yeah, Right Honorable Speaker, we are not debating this issue, but I come from an area which eats a lot of cassava. First of all, I want to thank the Minister for his detailed presentation and the steps he has taken. But then I want to appeal that we mount a quarantine in this area, so that this bad cassava does not come to these other areas. Because normally when we move around and you find good cassava on the roadside, you buy it and take it to the house, not knowing that it is poisonous. And this may be dangerous for people who travel along, in those areas. Secondly, I don't know whether it's because government doesn't have enough resources, but why don't we have an exercise of destroying all those types of cassava that are poisonous, so that we get rid of them in the whole country, and then we start anew, as he has begun on the process of supplying good cassava. These are my requests, Mr. Honorable Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'd like to join colleagues in appreciating the Minister's report. However, I have two specific concerns. One, the Minister has told us there's a very elaborate plan to ensure that the new cassava varieties are well distributed throughout the country. Honorable Minister, how long does it need to take in order for you to replace Magana, which is a high cyanide cassava? And yet, we are very much aware that the project under which these new cassava varieties have been funded was not a government of Uganda program. The World Bank had to inject money to ensure that some of this research was possible through NARO. And this project is about to close. Can you tell us as a ministry what plans you have to ensure that this research will continue and to ensure that the promises you have made in this report regarding the systematic distribution and multiplication of new varieties becomes a total success, so that we don't see a repeat of Ugandans dying of hunger, not only hunger, but because of poisonous cassava? I think this is a shame and disgrace to us as a nation that thinks it will be attaining a middle income status in the next 3 years. Can we get to serious business, as the President has ever said? Kisanja hakuna mchezo. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we close this matter, honorable members? Are we debating it? Huh? Yes, please. Let's briefly, please.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, from the minister's statement, he is stating that the cassava grown in Tororo and Busia, 80% is high cyanide cassava. 80%. And when you look at the cuttings they are sending there, Mr. Speaker, sir, they are too few to even comment and to present to this House. Now, the perspective I'm raising on the floor, Right Honorable Speaker, is that with 9 deaths acknowledged by government, 9 people dying, 9 citizens of this country, and he hasn't mentioned, in the press we read about similar deaths in Kasese. Right Honorable Speaker, isn't there a need for government to come out with a robust response to this? Stop this kind of deaths where we have a government in place and we are only talking about massaging the problem. We shall discourage, we shall send Operation Wealth Creation. Right Honorable Speaker, Operation Wealth Creation has its own problems. It can't be offered as a solution here. What robust measures is government taking? And Honorable Kauli, what he has said, some of us at times pass through Kona, Kamudin, Boyare, there is always sweet cassava there. But unscrupulous traders might also bring Magana and sell to the unsuspecting public. Isn't there a need for an intervention, an immediate intervention, so that we don't come here to lament the loss of lives of Ugandans who may not be there to defend themselves, but we here to enforce it, to impress it on government, to take actions rather than the way they've taken things, business as usual, Right Honorable Speaker. Shouldn't we request the government to come up with some other way rather than trying to sensitize? Because you can't be sensitized when you're hungry. So you either eliminate the crop altogether, but you don't say it's because it's very difficult for thieves to break in at night and steal that cassava. That's why we encourage it to remain. That's not giving sense at all and direction, Right Honorable Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you.
What I wanted the Honorable Minister maybe to tell us at this particular time, Right Honorable Speaker, is that people are eating this cassava out of desperation. As a last option. It is the last meal in the home. They have nothing left other than going for that cyanide, high-level cyanide cassava, the Magana. Or at this particular time, when it is the only thing they have, and you are saying they should not go ahead and eat it. What are you providing as government that cares about the lives of Ugandans to make these people move from this disaster to reach the time your cassava that takes 2 years that is going to mature and they start enjoying normal meals in their places? It did not come out clearly, and I think you need to tell us. Then the other thing you highlighted on some page, hectares of cassava in general. You did not tell us the hectares of this cassava, Magana, in this country, because you are the manager of edible plants in this country. Tell us the hectares of this bad cassava in this country and what you plan to do, particularly to make sure that we move away from it. And how does it look like? Because personally, I don't know it. You are describing Magana. How does it look like? It is cassava. Yes. How can I identify it? Have you provided this information, particularly to ordinary people, to tell that this is Magana, this is, don't touch. At least that information we need it, or how it looks like. And I expected, for the record of the house, other than coming to describe Magana, you present a piece of it and say this is Magana.
To lay it on the table?
Yeah, you lay it on the table. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Ngora, then Tororo County, then I think it was Kyoga.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
We're not debating, remember. We're raising issues that the minister should do.
Yes, Right Honorable Speaker, I come from a district which 90% consume cassava as food. And whereas we are discussing an issue related to cassava poisoning in Busia and Tororo, in Iteso it's a different phenomena that I would like the minister to respond, because when I was growing up in Teso, Igola Research Institute used to bring us plantains, banana cuttings, and we would be having very good cassava for home and also for sale. But today, as we speak, through the Operation Wealth Creation under the Ministry of Agriculture, the cassava that we get in Teso is not viable. People plant and it doesn't germinate. And then we are talking about addressing food insecurity in the country. I remember last year, Honorable Speaker, when we addressed the issue of food insecurity in this particular floor, the ministers of agriculture committed to this house that they were going to bring a food security plan for Uganda, including mapping the country and looking at which food products are viable for particular regions in order to address food insecurity. So I would love the minister to give a brief comment on that. Thank you.
Tororo?
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank my brothers who raised this issue, and I also want to thank the minister for responding to the issues that were raised by my brothers. Right Honorable Speaker, this was a crisis in Tororo, especially in Mirikit sub-county and part of Mukuju, Akadot Parish, where we buried a number of people because they had eaten poisonous cassava. And I'm glad that the minister picked out and he has attempted to respond to this issue. However, Right Honorable Speaker, I'm not debating, but I'm just concerned with the response of the minister. That the minister he said in his response that there is 2,000 bags of planting bags of cassava to be distributed to the people. If you look at that, you know, if you listen to it as the minister is speaking, you may think these bags are many. But if implemented, this is nothing, Right Honorable Speaker. And yet in Tororo, you know that most of our people depend highly. That's the food they eat. They don't eat any other food. There's no matoke, there's no rice. It is cassava and millet. That is their major food. And because of the drought, the long drought, which was in Tororo for a long spell of time, there is a high demand for cassava cuttings. Right Honorable Speaker, I just want to request the minister that if he would reconsider and at least add on the number of bags he has given, because why our people died was because it was a desperate attempt to survive. Yes, they died because of they were trying to survive. So my humble request to the minister is to request him to increase on the number of bags. I know he has the capacity to do that. That is all for now. Thank you.
Honourable members, I am going to pause this here. I think we have dealt with the issue.
Mr. Speaker,
Kyoga, we'll stop
yes.
with Kyoga.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, sir. There's a type of cassava eaten in Lango, and particularly in Amolata. I cannot know straight away what its name is, but probably the minister can. The minister has talked about the poisonous cassava that causes death. But this type of cassava, when you eat it, it causes a lot of headache. serious headache, Right Honorable Speaker. And at worst, you can either vomit or develop diarrhea. Mr. Speaker, I want to know whether this type of cassava will eventually result into death, like the ones he has talked about. But my people are suffering. They constantly eat this cassava, but develop serious headache each time they eat them. I'm wondering how the ministry can assist us. And Right Honorable Speaker, even the variety of cassava that is supplied by government under Operation Wealth Creation, it is quick maturing, but it doesn't last long. And once you wait for it to take a year or two, you go back to it and find all the tubers are rotten. So it is not meeting the purpose for which it's supplied. Because eventually you don't find it giving food security. You go back and find it rotten. So once it matures in 6 months, you should be very fast to consume it. Information?
The Right Honorable Speaker, my honorable colleague, Member of Parliament for Mulatare, is raising issues surrounding the type of cassava. Where I represent, Honorable Speaker, we did receive the cassava cuttings. When they were planted, they cannot go beyond 16 months in the garden. And then when you get it, it rots faster when you harvest it. And even when you start mingling kalo, it does not become very strong like the previous cassava. For us in the east and the north, from West Nile, we believe in the kalo which is strong when you are eating.
Honorable Member, what is kalo?
We can call it the millet bread. But nationally, if you went to any part of the country, that has become almost the...
No, for the record of Parliament.
Okay, millet bread, no problem. Honorable Speaker, once the mama is mingling, it tends to cover, it will cover the whole saucepan. Honorable Speaker, let me withdraw the word. Let me say, when they are preparing this bread, like they are preparing, mingling it on the saucepan, you find that you keep adding flour, but it does not become thicker. It continues to swell and fill the saucepan. This is the problem we have cited with this cassava.
Thank you.
And I think the Honorable Minister needs to help the people of this country, either to ask the scientists to do further research to find out what the problem is, because it has affected most of the families.
You rose on the information, Honorable Member.
That's the information I wanted to give my brother. Honorable Speaker, it was necessary that that information goes to the Minister. I thank you, Honorable Minister, for giving time.
Yeah, Honorable Members, that is expert opinion.
Thank you. Indeed it is. Indeed, Right Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank him for the piece of information. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, my people are now actually regretting. We have old varieties of cassava. The type of cassava we had in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, and in the 90s. There are this type of cassava we used to call bao, then the type of cassava called a chili chill, then the type of cassava called jaribu. Right Honorable Speaker, you could have this cassava in the garden for 3 years, for 4 years, for 5 years. But this cassava is no more. How can government help us preserve the old type of cassava that we used to have against these ones that are supplied recently? Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank the members for those very educative conclusions.
Minister, please wind up quickly.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to inform the members that under the SCDP, cassava is one of the 5 which I presented here one time, some time back. Cassava is one of the 5 crops which have been prioritized. So cassava is going to be handled in a wider perspective under ACDP. And that one, I think, will certainly help us to cover the whole country to get enough planting materials. But specifically for Tororo and Busia, this is what we came up with. But all the same, we are going to consider increasing. But this cassava, the new varieties, and I want to request the members here, the new varieties that we have mentioned in this report, please take interest as members of parliament, because they are supposed to be for multiplication. You know the amounts of seed that come from the researchers, the breeder seed, is a small amount of seed. So when it goes to multiplication, this is when we expand, but we are now giving out almost the original seed from the researchers, which we want you to monitor and make sure that it is multiplied, and then next season we can give it to everybody. So I wanted to request the members here to take interest, because it has really taken us a lot of work to come up with these varieties that I have mentioned in this paper. Lastly, Right Honorable Speaker, of course, the issues of research, we are going to request at some stage to request researchers to indicate the good aspects of the new varieties. Yes, the old varieties were lasting long, but now they can't. If things have changed, they are susceptible to pests and all of these. We can no longer use them. Now we have to go with the new varieties which have been tested. But we also know that land is not elastic. Land is very scarce these days. Plant 6 months, 8 months, you have mature cassava. 1 year, uproot, dry, and store, and then use the land for other things. Because we are now commercial, we can't use those old styles of keeping idle land for years. Right, Honorable Speaker, but I take the ideas and the inclusions from the members very seriously, and we shall use them for the benefit of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable members. In the public gallery this afternoon, we have youth from Kasangati Child Development Center, represented by Honorable Chagulanyi Sentamo and Honorable Nansubuga Rosemary Seninde. They have come to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. You're welcome. We also have pupils and teachers of Dr. Ambrosoli Primary School, represented by Honorable Professor Ogayangala Tigo and Honorable Akelo Judith Franca from Agago District. They are here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. You are welcome. I don't know where I'm at. We also have pupils and teachers of Ngora Day and Boarding Primary School, represented by Honorable David Abala and Honorable Abongin Jacqueline, Ngora District. They're here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 4 on the order paper, laying of papers. Number 1, report of the delegation from the Parliament of Uganda to the conference of the 12th session of the Parliamentary Union of Islamic Countries and statutory meetings held in Bamako, Mali on 23rd to 28th January 2017.
Honorable Member.
Procedure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This is a report of the 12th Conference of the Parliamentary Union of Islamic Countries and the statutory meetings held in Bamako from 23rd to 28th of January 2017. Mr. Speaker, this meeting...
You are laying the report. You are laying the paper.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on table the report of the 12th of the conference of the 12th session of the Parliamentary Union of Islamic Countries, PUIC, and story meetings held in Bamako, Mali, 23rd to 28th January 2017. I beg to lay.
Let the records capture that. Honorable members, we amended the rules to provide for time when this kind of reports can be debated. Next. Next.
Two, report of the Uganda parliamentary delegation to the Pan-African Parliament on the 4th ordinary session of the 4th Pan-African Parliament held in Midrand, South Africa, 4th to 19th May 2017.
Honorable member.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay on the table a report by the Pan-African Parliament delegation to the 4th ordinary session of the 4th Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament held in Midrand, South Africa, 4th to 19th May 2017. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay.
Let the records capture that. Honorable members, as I guided, that report will be handled accordingly.
3, report on participation at the 46th session of the subsidiary body for scientific and technological advice and the subsidiary body for implementation, as well as the third part of the first session of the ad hoc working group on the Paris Agreement of the United Nations Convention on Climate Change held from 7th to 19th May 2017 in Bonn, Germany.
Honorable Masiko.
Right Honorable Speaker, I wish to lay on table a report on participation in the 46th session of the subsidiary body for scientific and technological advice, Substa 46, and the subsidiary body for implementation, SBI 46, as well as the third part of the first session of the ad hoc working group on the Paris Agreement of the United Nations Convention on Climate Change that took place from 7th May to 19th May 2017 in Bonn, Germany. I beg to lay.
Let the records capture that. Honorable members, it will also be handled appropriately. Here's procedure.
Item number 5 on the order paper.
There's a procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My point of procedure arose from one of the members' attires today. Going by the information we've got from around Parliament, threatening words because of the discussions about the age limit, my mind and heart skipped today in Parliament when I saw the Chief Government Whip entering Parliament in an army attire. Is it procedurally right, Mr. Speaker? Because when you look at the buttons, they are the same like those of General Kutesa. So, are we safe procedurally? Thank you, Speaker.
In the first place, it's not a point of procedure. That would be a matter of order. If you are challenging the dressing conduct of a member, that would not be a point of procedure. It would be a matter of order. But then secondly, if you observe carefully, the two structures of dressing are very different. So it's not just a matter of buttons, because those wearing blazers also have the same shining characteristic like the ones those people are wearing. I don't know whether you also want to start saying that blazers are military uniforms. Please, let's get serious with business. Next item.
Item number 5 on the order paper, Prime Minister's question time.
No, Prime Minister's question time comes at 4, according to the new rules, please. 4 o'clock. Next item.
Item number 6 on the order paper, questions for oral answer. Question number 1, stroke 1, stroke 1.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Member, the rule is we don't read the question. You just call the question, you rise, you confirm you're there, then they respond to the question, and then you ask your supplementary question. Honorable Minister, Finance. Where's the Honorable Minister of Finance? The Honorable Member was in the House. We cannot have discussions in plenary from the lobby. Can we deal with the next one? While we wait for the person, can we deal with the next one?
Yes, question 09/01/10.
But by the time a minister agrees with your office,
Honorable Member, we'll just be wasting time. Let's just deal with business that is there.
But we express displeasure as well.
No, once we've come to that and there is no response, then we deal with it. We have business. Yes? The next question, the Honorable Minister for Health. Next. Next. Right Honorable Prime Minister. This is a matter of grave concern to this House. It is part of why we have members resorting to raising matters of urgent public importance, even when they are not urgent. The structure of the rules that we use parliamentary question to deal with specific issues is to help facilitate the business of the House. Now you have questions whose answers we have received at the time of answering the ministers up to abscond. Even the Minister of Finance was in the House. What do we do with this, Right Honorable Prime Minister?
Right Honorable Speaker, the Leader of Government Business agrees with their position, and it is the intention of the Leader of Government Business to take the necessary measures to ensure that the responsible ministers are handled appropriately. And really, this embarrasses the House, embarrasses the government side, and definitely embarrasses the ministers who are absent when they are supposed to be present. We, of course, may need to work on improving some communications, and that's why government has now appointed for every ministry a parliamentary liaison officer to make sure that there are no excuses of ministers not getting to know the program or order paper of Parliament. So we join you in fighting against this, this absenteeism of people when they should be in the House.
But honorable members, we post the order paper online. So nobody has to be called for. As long as you have the equipment given to you by Parliament, you have access to the order paper. Why should we proceed this way? Right Honorable Prime Minister, each time questions are lined up for answer and the minister responsible does not show up, that minister I will suspend from the House. I will. Oh yes, I will. A minister whose question has been listed on the order paper and does not show up, I will suspend that minister from the It's not right. It's not right. It is not right. It's not right, Right Honorable Prime Minister. So in the circumstances, we'll have Prime Minister's question time for 2 hours today. Because it was supposed to be for 1 hour. Now we don't have any other business except the Prime Minister's question time. So, Right Honorable, we are going to deal with you for 2 hours and allow the members to ask you questions because we have no other business. And I'll start from Bufumbira East. Please call the item.
Item number 5 on the order paper, Prime Minister's question time.
Honorable members, I informed you that we changed the rules. Prime Minister's question time now is at 4 o'clock on Thursdays, but because of the circumstances, we are starting it right now, and I'll start from Bufumbira East.
Mr. Speaker, sir, between the year 2014 and 2015, the East African Institute of the Aga Khan University conducted a survey, and results of which were reported in the New Vision of September 19, 2016, I beg your pardon. And the survey's intention was to set out to understand the values, attitudes, concerns, and aspirations of Uganda's youth. Mr. Speaker, sir, it may be worthy to note that Uganda has is the most youthful country in East Africa, with 80% of our youth constituting 80% indeed, and under the age of 35. Mr. Speaker, sir, given that, is the Prime Minister aware that the reported findings do portend a very disturbing picture? Namely, that 56% of the youth believe that it does not matter how one makes money, provided they do not end up in jail. That 55% of our youth admire people who make money by hook or crook. And 35%, Mr. Speaker, believe that corruption...
The question, Honorable Member.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. 33% believe that corruption works. Mr. Speaker, does the Prime Minister agree, therefore, that these findings are an example of a crisis of integrity in this most critical segment of our population? And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, does he agree that these findings deserve or merit consideration by government? And if he does, Mr. Speaker, finally, what is the intention, or what is government intending to do as solutions and policy options to mitigate this situation that is very disturbing indeed, Mr. Speaker?
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable Msavutura has raised a very important issue affecting the biggest chunk of our population, the youth. If his statistical findings are correct, Right Honorable Speaker, they are obviously of great concern to government. And all along, I must say, government has fully realized the importance of the youth, and that's why government has concentrated its investments among the young people. And this has been particularly in the field of education and health. And in fact, the explosion of the segment of the youth in our population is in itself very good testimony of the successful program of government to improve the health of the young people and to reduce infant and child mortality rates. But back to the issue of ethics, issue of corruption being admired, this is really a collective responsibility. We as parents, as indeed most of us are, or grandparents for that matter, have a responsibility to shape, to nurture, to help bring up children and youth who have values, who appreciate the critical values in society. Of course, these days, our young people spend more time in schools and with their peers. So, apart from families, educational institutions have a very, very important role to play in shaping the destiny, shaping the morals, and giving emphasis to values to these young people. And therefore, a combination of schools, parents, and cultural institutions by the one religious institutions. We need, therefore, a grand coalition of parents, government, educational institutions, cultural and religious institutions to combine efforts to highlight to these young people the importance of values, of standards, of moral standing to our youngsters so that they can in turn put them in practice. Of course, we know there is a challenge, but government is ready to work with other segments of society that have made reference to ensure that the young people are an asset other than being a liability for the development of our country. I thank you.
Thank you. Buganga East.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, sir, the national radio, UBC, is still off in most areas of this country. The Western Channel section that has transmission sites in Hoima, Masindi, Kabale, Chisoro have been off for 2 years now. And even the channel that goes to the eastern, called UBC Butevo, has also been off in several areas there. And even the channel that broadcasts in Acholi for the northern has also been limping for some time. When the president was in Western, in the land campaign, the radio was put on very shortly. When he left, it was switched off again. So, Right Honorable Prime Minister, sir, our people are not getting information from the national radio. So what plans do you have as government to work on this radio to be able to, be used by people in accessing information? Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, information is power, and I agree with the Honorable Member for raising this point. It is true that UBC has had quite a number of problems, and I'll ask the Minister responsible for information to come in the course of next week and brief this August House on steps being taken to ensure that UBC is indeed UBC and is heard all over the country.
Thank you. Rakai District.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. My question is about the Women Entrepreneurship Program. This is a program that is overdue because in this financial year, all districts in Uganda were supposed to receive money, the Women Fund. But as I talk now, some districts have received it, but most districts have not received it, including Rakai. So I am wondering, PG is also telling me, I am wondering what criteria did government use to select some districts be given money and other districts are not given money. And this gives me a lot of questions. Are some districts left out? Are they important like any other districts? Are women lied to? So I'm wondering what is happening and why. Because the budget was here, we passed it. All districts are supposed to receive the money and some are prioritized over us. Why? Thank you so much.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, the Women's Fund like the youth fund, is supposed to be a revolving fund, and the money is made available to districts depending on the state of preparedness and also other administrative issues. So I expected that Rakai would have already received its money. If it has not, and some other districts may not have done, we are going to find out and will inform this August House, because that's a fund that is meant to boost the capacity of women to play their rightful role in the economic transformation of our country.
Thank you. Makindye East, West. Makindye West.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is derived from the state of health centers in Uganda. A case in point is a Kirudu Health Center, which these days is used as a referral hospital nationally, as a wing of Mulago Hospital. I had an incident in a month ago, where residents in Makindye wanted to strike over the broken sewage system of this hospital. This sewage system, after breaking, it has led to so many negative health incidences in that area, because the thing is now turning into a sewage itself, the place itself, because of the problems caused by this hospital lacking a proper managed sewage system. When I talked to the hospital administration...
Would you like to ask the question, please?
Yeah, this is the question.
Please.
When I talked to the hospital administration, they assured me that they are going to correct this system very soon. And now it is a month, they are not doing anything, but people are continuing to suffer. So my question to the Prime Minister is, what is the progress of such, what is the progress of correcting such a problem in my area? Because I waited for your administration to correct it, they are yet to do it. Maybe if you say something here, I'll get contented and report the same to my community. That is the question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right Honourable.
Right Honourable Speaker, the Honourable Member has raised an important point concerning sewage in a heavily congested area on Salama Road, where our new hospital, Kirudu, is based. Actually, I saw in the media the Honourable with the Wananchi trying to get the matters brought to the attention of those responsible. But it's true that the Minister of Health is seized with this problem and is taking the necessary measures to have a sustainable solution to this problem. And we really join you in working for a speedy solution so that we can have a normal functioning sewage system for this new hospital.
Nakaseke South.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Prime Minister, my question is, Article 4A in the Constitution states that the state shall promote public awareness of this Constitution by A, translating it into Ugandan languages and disseminating it as widely as possible. My question is, how many local languages has the Constitution been translated into since its promulgation in 1995?
Right Honourable.
Right Honourable Speaker, to the best of my knowledge, I have not seen any significant I've not seen significant translation of the Constitution in no local languages. I think this is where we are lacking and lagging behind, and indeed, this is a responsibility that the government is determined to ensure that is actualized. It has taken longer than I would have expected, but government will embark on it.
Amolata district. Then I have with that Butaleja.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker. To me, the worst corruption is in Uganda. It's a circumstance where government spends money, invests, and then the facilities or investment is not given to the beneficiaries to use. A question of one, or an example is, we have a fish handling facility in Amolata, which has taken over 10 years, constructed with the taxpayers' money, and has never been utilized because government has never commissioned it. 2, we have a grinding mill in Amolata, constructed, well furnished, but simply because of some few nuts that are missing, it was under presidential pledge. It has never been handed over to the women. It has never been used. We only have about 2-3 armed men who operate there illegally, making money for themselves. I would believe this is the worst corruption we are doing to our country. My question is, Prime Minister, Honorable, do you people have the data of some of these facilities? Does this investment really come from you, or it is just a bust and boom project? Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honourable Speaker, I've taken the advantage of sitting near the former Minister of State for Fisheries, and she has Honourable Ruth Nankabirwa, and she has told me that during her tenure of office, she went to Amrata, commissioned the facility and handed it over, including the manual and other gadgets required. I think the honourable member should work closely with the government so that we identify the cause of the problem that is currently there, but the commissioning was done. Nevertheless, government will work with you to ensure that the facility is serving the purpose for which it was put up.
Butaleja district.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Prime Minister, I want to thank you so much for including Busole Hospital in the renovation program. My concern is about referrals, Right Honourable Prime Minister. We all agreed in this House that government rolls out the program of providing ambulances in all referral hospitals. But up to now, we have not seen any response from your office. May I know how far you've gone with this issue of providing ambulances? Thank you so much.
Right Honourable.
Right Honourable Speaker, the issue of ambulances is essential for hospitals and indeed for rescuing our patients. But it's true that resources have been lacking to be able to actualize this. So as soon as resources are made available, the minister responsible for the health sector will provide the ambulances.
Yumbe district.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, we are informed that LC1 elections might take place on the 21st November of this year. Right Honourable Speaker, we have highly contested areas. May I know from the Right Honourable Prime Minister, where will the LC, under which areas, like for the highly contested areas, for example, Iwanga, which district will take control of the elections for the LC ones? Really, that area, time and again they have been promising that they will go and sort out the boundary issues. Up to now, secretly, there is a letter being written to the other districts, you know, to make the highly contested area operate, especially under Arua. So we are not happy. May we know where the LC elections will take place, whether in Yumbe, Arua, Moyo, I don't know. Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Yeah, Right Honorable Speaker, I agree with my sister that there is a contentious border situation in the area that she has made reference to, and the Honorable Minister for Local Government is handling the matter. We expect that a solution will be found before the LC elections, and therefore, where LC election will be held, in which Gomborora or in which district will already be clarified. So the Minister for Local Government is pursuing the matter and will get a solution.
Mubende Municipality.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Right Honorable Prime Minister, the question I'd like to pose to you is in relation to the operationalization of the land tribunals. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Land Act came into effect 1998, and Section 74 establishes the district land tribunals, whereas Section 76 provides them with the mandates on how to resolve land disputes. Mr. Speaker, sir, this country is facing one of the fundamental outcries with the land disputes. I'd like to know from the Right Prime Minister, are you waiting for more 50 years to operationalize the land tribunals? What plans have you got in place to operationalize the land tribunals? I rest my case.
Right Honorable, Land Tribunals.
Right Honorable Speaker, I share the view of the Honourable Member that we have not moved as quickly as we should have done to operationalize the district land tribunals, because actually they would solve many of the issues that we are dealing with. But the Ministry of Lands is coming out with clear policy on the functionalization of land tribunals, and we therefore expect them to be in place in due course.
Queen District.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, you are aware that we have people in Sebei sub-region who were evicted from the national park and have never been resettled. The last time you came, you promised and you actually instituted a committee led by Brigadier Oluka. Brigadier was there with this committee, started from Bukwam for just less than a month, and then left the region. And up to today, we are waiting. We have been trying to follow up. They have been telling us there is no facilitation. Right Honorable Prime Minister, when are the people of Sebei sub-region going to be resettled? Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Yeah, Right Honorable Speaker, I confirm what my sister is saying. It is true that actually government made land available to the displaced people in the region. Unfortunately, people, after getting their pieces of land, a number of them decided to sell that land, and they became landless again. And it's true that when we went to the area, we decided to set up a team under Brigadier General Oluka, and the team is doing its work. It's true it was delayed because of facilitation, but they are coming up with very positive reports on how to bring a lasting solution to the displaced people in the Sebei region. They are coming up with a solution.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My question to the Right Honorable Prime Minister is that what kind of criteria is used to identify the beneficiaries of the presidential initiative on the skilling of the girl child program? And by the way, are you introducing that one for boys? Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, I do not have information on the question that has been raised by my brother.
Kapele Biong.
The right. Mr. Speaker, one of the key strategies in the policy objective of in the policy objective of national policy of East African community integration is the provision of training facilities to Ugandan producers and business community to increase their skills in doing business in the region. The Right Honorable Speaker, can the Prime Minister inform the House on the progress made towards establishing training facilities for Ugandan producers and the business community?
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, the question of building capacity of our people to be more efficient, more competitive producers in business and other areas is a high item on government's agenda. And in fact, if you go in different directions, arms, sections, ministries, agencies, you'll find many relevant programs, training, assisting people in business, in other technical fields, to acquire skills so that Ugandans are able, with confidence, to be able to produce, to be more productive, to be more efficient, and to be able to catalyze the growth and transformation of the economy. So the program is on course in many directions, and a number of ministries are involved in this program and in a coordinated manner.
Mukono Municipality.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, I'm asking you this question and I need an answer. Very, very strong one. I've read in the papers, specifically New Vision, and I have heard on radio and TV that Israel is deporting refugees to Uganda. Under what arrangement and the policy are they doing this? And isn't this illegal under the international law? And lastly, what preparations do we have as a country to accommodate those people? And I want an answer.
Right Honorable Speaker, I believe that Honorable Nambose needed an answer, and that's why she asked the question. The strength will be assessed. On a serious note, I've seen those reports, and they are of concern, and the Minister responsible for refugees is going to be asked to make a statement to this House so that the matter can be finally clarified. I do expect the Minister to make a statement in the course of next week.
West Budama North.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Through you, Right Honourable Speaker, may I know from the Right Honourable Prime Minister how far the government has moved to implement parliamentary resolution to recover corporate taxes that the government had paid to some companies that include, but not limited to, Steel and Tubes, Aya Hotels, Quality Chemicals, Bidco, and several others. Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honourable Speaker, the Minister of Finance, who is responsible for tax collections, will give us a statement, and as I have said before, I expect this to be done in the course of next week.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, one of the Uganda's roadblocks to economic development and the service delivery is corruption. Today you can hardly get a government service without a brown envelope. Right Honorable Prime Minister, isn't government threatened that if this continues, it may be a roadblock to the song of the president of Kisanja Hakuna Mchezo and uplifting the economy to a middle income status?
Right Honorable.
Right Honourable Speaker, I share the view of the Honourable Member that corruption is a threat, is a roadblock, is a hindrance to development. And I must say that government is using all the institutions available and sometimes using extra measures apart from the formal institutions in place to ensure that those officials of government and their collaborators who are involved in corruption are dealt with as quickly as possible. And as you know, there have been some fairly high-level arrests, this time involving His Excellency the President himself, leading to ordering arrest of some people who are involved in corruption. So we take corruption seriously, and let us combine all our efforts in this House, members of the public and the media, to make sure that we converge our forces in defeating this menace, this monster of corruption.
Lugaze Municipality.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Prime Minister, I thank you so much. We used to ask on daily basis almost when the LC1 elections will be. Finally, the Electoral Commission released the dates. Now, when I'm traversing through my constituency, those campaigning always put me in a corner and they say, we are campaigning, but what are our benefits? Is there any remuneration for us? I need some clarification. Thank you so much.
Right Honourable.
Right Honourable Speaker, I salute the Honourable Member for saluting government for coming out clearly on the timetable for LC elections. And with regard to the benefits, the essential task really, in my view, is service to the people. And number two is, where feasible, some small or simple ways and means of enabling LC leaders to serve the people may be found. But the principal task is that these are patriotic Ugandans committed to serving the people of Uganda as we advance forward in our development process.
Thank you. I'll have PG Chitagwenda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a number of town boards were upgraded to town councils, and they were to be operational by 1st July this financial year. Mr. Speaker, up to now, nothing much has been made. There is no development at all. My question is, what is the progress of town councils that were the town boards that were upgraded to town councils?
Right Honourable.
Right Honourable Speaker, I have received reliable information from our sister, Namyang, the Minister of State for Local Government, that her Ministry of Local Government is gazetting these town boards and councils so that they become operational. And the process is ongoing at the moment.
Thank you. Tagwenda.
Right Honourable Speaker, thank you. Right Honourable Prime Minister, it's a policy of government to create secondary schools in every sub-county, and where government cannot create a secondary school, they adopt either the community or other schools there as government secondary schools. Unfortunately, in the Ministry of Education, there is a very unfair and discriminatory system through which they select these schools, that there are many schools that have been lying in the system for over 10 years and they have never been selected, but new schools, new applicants come and they jump the queue and they are selected. There are many examples. My colleagues have many schools. I have Nyakasenyi Secondary School, I have Garama Secondary School and others. The question is, what are these schools going to do in order to be selected by government, that they can be government aided in such a system where the competition is not favorable? Thank you.
Right Honourable.
Right Honourable Speaker, there should be clear and transparent criteria that are used in upgrading or adopting or taking over schools as government schools. And I believe they are there. However, the responsible ministry for education will be asked next week again to come and give these clear criteria and give hope to some of the schools that may have been hanging around for a long time, not knowing what is happening.
Thank you. Yes, Honourable.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Prime Minister, I represent the people of Chegegwa, and they have been asking me 2 questions that I need you to answer. One is the money for WEP, Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Project. We submitted 21 groups in the last financial year, but the government only released for 4. So they're asking me when are the rest being catered for. 2, we got the road equipment unit. We only got 2 pieces, and they are wondering where the rest, and we want to know when they are being delivered by government. Thank you very much.
Honourable members, you're entitled to 1 question. Right Honourable?
Right Honourable Speaker, on the question of road equipment, it's true we have received road equipment for districts. However, this has been first phase. More equipment will be coming. So my sister should settle and know that the whole idea is to have proper units being in place. Second, on the question of money for women entrepreneurs, I think this is a matter that should be sorted out with the ministry responsible, perhaps trade. You can get the answer more directly from them.
Bukoto South, Mbolamoji, and I come this way.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. My question goes to the Prime Minister. What plans do you have to resurrect agricultural research centers in Uganda? Because before you came in, because of the cross supplies which have been delivered by wealth creation, some regions are losing their indigenous crops in life expectancy of the crops and the quality. So what plans do you have to resurrect regional research centers of agriculture countrywide? That's my question.
Right Honourable.
Right Honourable Speaker, I don't think the Honourable Member is right to talk of resurrecting these research centres. They are definitely not dead. There may be need to invigorate them or to put more resources in them. That one government fully accepts. And your point about some of our indigenous species disappearing is a good point. And indeed, these research centers should help in the preservation of some of our useful species. So the point is well taken, and these centers will be given more support. We need them in order to promote our production, especially in the area of agriculture.
Thank you. Bulamoji.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Prime Minister, you are aware that the President has made numerous pledges to different parts of the country, including pledging tarmacking the road from Kaliro to Namwewa via Saka, connecting to Palisa. Right Honourable Prime Minister, the people of Blamoji still believe that the President did not lie. And I hope we still think it is true. He was speaking the truth. Now, Right Honourable Prime Minister, don't you think it is appropriate for you as government to come up with an implementation schedule of how and when these different pledges are to be implemented? And if you do think it is right, when can we have it and have it brought before this House? Thank you.
Right Honourable.
Right Honourable Speaker, I do agree that His Excellency the President has made many pledges, and these are indeed pledges and manifesto, pledges on behalf of government. They are not lies. There may be delay in implementation, however they will be implemented. I do agree with your view that the responsible ministries should give tentative timetable on when some of those pledges will be fulfilled, especially the question of roads. As you very well know, it takes quite a bit of time to work out the process of upgrading roads, including mobilization of the resources. So I'll ask the minister responsible for the roads, who fortunately is alert and in the House, to make available the tentative road program that she has, so that colleagues can confidently be able to talk to their constituents as to when their roads may be upgraded. And the Kaliro Road you are talking about will be one of those whose information will be made available and whose timetable and program will be made available by the minister responsible for transport.
Can I have Maracha Amoro Upe?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, Prime Minister, I've observed the President on several occasions supporting youth associations in Kampala while neglecting underprivileged youth in the rural areas of Uganda. What policy exactly governs presidential donations to youth so that our youth are not left out?
Right Honourable.
Right Honourable Speaker, the President is not ignoring or neglecting the youth in the different areas of the country. However, His Excellency the President has, in his own assessment, seen certain problem areas where young people are doing a great deal of work but lacking certain key inputs. And His Excellency has come in and provided some of those key inputs, starting with Kampala. There has to be a starting area. You cannot start all over the country just like that. So take it that Kampala is a starting area, but the aim, the focus at the end of the day will be the entire youth of Uganda.
Hamoro District.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, you are aware that Uganda Prisons Authority suffers a big deal when it comes to transportation of inmates. The case in point is when 4 prisoners died when they were walking from Bushenyi. Actually, they were from court this year, in January this year. And it needs, the prisoners also walk 32 kilometers in Nebi. This is just a few examples. Now, my question is, what interventions have been put in place to ensure that there is actually safe transport for these inmates? And then also, what compensation measures are there for the families who have lost their loved ones in these accidents? Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, the point made by my sister about improved transport for prisons is obviously a very good point. We share that view, and with more resources, would like to see clearly better and a safer transport for our compatriots who are prisoners. Secondly, the other issues of compensation, the law will be followed and they will be compensated in accordance with the laws of the land.
Upe.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, I saw on the 25th of May in NTV 2017, 1,200 medical workers were rushing to a job recruitment agent to get their documents cleared for them to work as doctors and nurses in the city of Benghazi in Libya. My question to you, Right Honorable Prime Minister, is that medical workers are highly needed in Uganda, especially in my district, Amra district, which has staffing problem. They are understaffed by 75%. Why do government allow this, and yet most of these medical workers are already employed by the government? Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, I share the same views that we need the medical workers, we need health workers, and many of our institutions are not adequately staffed. Of course, the main reason has been the wage issue, where not enough resources available to allow 100% recruitment. So let's continue to improve our own recruitment and our capacity to pay our wages for our workers, so that as many of them as possible can remain working and serving the people of Uganda. Having said that, it becomes almost impossible to put a roadblock and say, you are a doctor or you are a nurse, you are not employed by government, you don't have a job, but at the same time, you cannot look for a job elsewhere. This, nevertheless, a matter that the Ministry of Health should study more closely, so that it can advise government more clearly and the country more clearly on how best to handle this matter. But the point is very well taken.
Honorable Chinji.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, you are the leader of government business, and I want to ask you in this area. In the financial year 2015-2016, Parliament of Uganda resolved that we, as a country, we develop a vaccine processing facility in the country. This country is continuing to lose millions of dollars importing vaccines into the country. Mr. Prime Minister, how far have we gone with this issue, which was budgeted for in the financial year 2015-2016?
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, the point of locally produced vaccines to serve our people and serve our animals is very well taken. Actually, measures are in place and progress is being made. So there may be need to inform perhaps the committee responsible, Committee of Parliament, on the progress that the country is making. But I can assure you that good progress is being made. And in fact, there is already some trials in local production taking place.
Busongora South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tuberculosis has become one of the dangerous diseases that we have. On 24th of March 2017, during a function to mark World Tuberculosis Day, the prisons authorities reported that in 2016 alone, a total of 296 tuberculosis cases were registered in prisons. Right Honorable Prime Minister, what has government done to reduce the rate of tuberculosis infections in prisons?
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Member is right that tuberculosis is a serious problem. It is not only a recently serious problem, but is historically and globally very well known serious problem. It's true government is taking measures to contain this problem, and one major preventive steps that we are taking is vaccination of the young people against tuberculosis. However, in congested areas like prisons, the chances of spread increase, and the prisons health services has indeed highlighted this, and in the same way, it has embarked on vigorous measures to ensure early detection, early treatment of tuberculosis in prisons. There is a compounding problem that has come up, and that is the appearance of a strain which is multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. But fortunately, the Ministry of Health, working with the international community and Centers for Disease Control, has now also embarked on a vigorous treatment for the multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. So we are making progress and we are on top of the situation.
Thank you. Honorable members, in the gallery this afternoon, we have teachers from Nyakabingo Primary School, represented by Honorable Mbajo Jackson and Honorable Kizi Winfred. Kasese District, they're here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. We also have pupils and teachers from Alpha Primary School, represented by Honorable Okello Anthony and Honorable Amule Doreen Amolata. They are here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. We also have pupils and teachers from Forest View and Menja Primary Schools, represented by Honorable Chelimo Ruben Paul and Honorable Chemtai Evelyn Bukwo. Please join me in welcoming them. You are very welcome. Can I go this side and have Member for Katakwi, Kapchorwa, Aringa.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, I truly need a satisfactory response about the new administrative units that were created by Parliament earlier this year. In my own district, 7 sub-counties were carved out, and they were supposed to have been operational July this year, this financial year. And for us to get a response that they are still being gazetted, I imagine according to plan, they were supposed to start operating, not just gazetting them. And my people need a response to this. 3-4 months down the road, nothing has happened. I need a clear response that I should be able to take to my people. Why the new sub-counties are not operational till now. Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, my sister should know that the sub-county started on 1st of July. Number 2, it is the town councils that we are talking about being gazetted.
Thank you. Kapchorwa.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, mine is on Kapchorwa Swam Road. This was one of the roads that was identified as joining the East African countries. And as now, I think money has been provided and the road has started. Right Honorable Speaker, when you look at the road, when it branches from Soroti Road, they have worked on it very well up to Sironko. But beginning from Sironko, going to Kapchorwa, the work which is there is shoddy. There's nothing that is done. The way they're working on it is the mistake they made the other time by putting the aggregates at the basement. And the road did not take 5 years before it cracked off. So what they are doing right now, the engineer is just scratching the road and compressing. Nothing is added on before they reach the other side of Kapchorwa Swamp. So are you aware that the work which is done is shoddy? And what can government do to really see that whatever money is put on any road or on any activity, money must be, the work must be done correctly? And are you aware that some of the constructors, when they are given contracts, they also subcontract, and those subcontractors are the ones who do the shoddy work? So what can be done to see that the road to Kapchorwa Swamp is done and meets really the money that government has allocated it? I thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Chikamondo for carrying out her oversight responsibilities to make sure that shoddy work is exposed and the necessary corrective measures take place. We appreciate the information and will bring this matter to the Minister responsible for roads and to ensure that if anything has gone wrong, the culprits are dealt with and that the work on the road meets the expected and required standards. But I thank you for your intervention.
Aringa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, I hope you are aware that there's a project proposal by the government under the Minister of Health to renovate Yumbi Hospital and Kaingo Hospital. And of late, we have not heard anything about the projects. I would like to be informed that as to why this work will progress. Secondly, there's this issue of the road from Arua via Omogo to Yumbe, and I don't know, I want to know the fate of this road as well. Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'm informed by the Honorable Minister of State for Health, who has now arrived in the House, And she says she was somewhere in the corridors when you needed her badly. But on this very point, I'm informed by Honorable Saro Pendi that the procurement process is going on, and so the brother should rest assured that after the procurement process, the work will begin in earnest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the Prime Minister has just made a statement that I needed the Honorable Saro Pendi badly. I'm wondering whether it was because I am in the chair or for some other personal reasons that you need to clarify this. Did I really need the Honorable Minister badly?
Right Honorable Speaker, it's right that the Speaker should be really protected, that in the interest of the House, the Speaker and the leader of government business wanted some very urgent information from the Honorable Minister of Health.
No, it's the order paper that demanded our presence here.
Most obliged, Right Honorable Speaker.
Bufumbira.
Thank you, Right Honorable. Right Honorable Prime Minister, on Sunday, the 10th, there appeared a story in the New Vision, front page, to the effect that there is an agreement between the government of Uganda and the government of Israel. The agreement...
That question was asked already.
Sorry?
It was asked already and responded to.
Oh, I wasn't there. Sorry. Thank you, Honourable.
Can I have a member for Ora in Zombo?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the Prime Minister, if it is done properly, Operation Wealth Creation should be able to usher Uganda into middle income status. And under that program, we have crops that are selected to be grown, including tea in Zombo, Kisoro, and Kanongo. But in most cases, NADS Secretariat pays contractors after delivery of seedlings, not after actually establishing that the seedlings supplied are planted. Why are we using that procedure? In most cases, the demand side from the farmers is not taken into consideration. Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Yeah, Right Honorable Speaker, I share the view that there has been some problems in procurement and distribution of seedlings, especially for tea, in some of the areas, and the government has asked Honorable Kasirivu, Minister for Economic Monitoring, to superintend the improvement of seedling distribution, and I must say there have been some improvements, and we expect even greater improvements to take place so that the tea sector can grow and expand and benefit the people without these problems that the Honourable Member has just eloquently described.
Yes, Honourable Member was just coming back in. You already finished? Okay. Dodos. After Dodos, Rubanda district.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, you are aware that we have a problem of tsetse flies that have occupied most of the area in Kabong and Kotido district. There is a threat now to livestock and people. Government of Uganda tried to respond by under the Pastoral Resilience Project to get acaricide and pour on to try to reduce the number of tsetse flies. But the breeding center, that is Kidepo Wildlife Conservation Area, has failed, and the animals that are moving out of the park have always added more of the tsetse flies to livestock grazing areas. What is government doing to ensure that tsetse flies are eradicated in the conservation area of Kidepo, that is the breeding center?
Right Honorable.
Right Honourable Speaker, the point is very well taken. Tsetse has been a number of areas of the country a menace, not only to cows but also to people. So this is a matter that government will work closely with the Honourable Member of Parliament and the ministry responsible for animal and also for health, so that this problem, this epidemic, can be contained as quickly as possible.
Thank you. I'll have Robanda Kiriandongo Buvuma Bale.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, my concern is about the issue of Ugandans paying rent in dollars, which we have raised on several occasions. Therefore, my question goes, what is the government doing to intervene for its Ugandans in paying rent for dollars, because it affects traders from the high level to the low scale traders? Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. The Honourable Minister responsible for housing has assured me that the bill to manage that relationship between the tenant and the landlord, including details of rent or payment, currencies involved, the bill is coming, and this August House will be debating it soon. And after that, it will settle the matters that my sister is talking about.
Kiriandongo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, we want to thank the government for setting 21st of November as the election date for LC1 chairpersons. However, the LC1 chairpersons who did not receive their bicycles have lost hope in government for discriminating them. Yet the Constitution, Right Honorable Speaker, talks of equal distribution of resources. Right Honorable Prime Minister, what message do you have for these LC1 chairpersons who have served for more than 15 years and have been waiting patiently to receive their bicycles? Some of them are retiring and not hoping to contest in the forthcoming election. Should they have hope? What message do you have for them?
Right Honorable.
Right Honourable Speaker, I salute the chairpersons who have served the country so well for so long. When bicycles come, bicycles will be coming for the chairpersons. So the chairpersons who will be in place will be beneficiaries from those bicycles to enable the chairpersons to perform their duties very well. As for those who have been serving the country, those who have been serving the country, one, the country appreciates. Number two, let's not make false promises to them, because the bicycles which are coming, they will be for the people who are performing the duties of the chairmanship. They will be for the people who are incumbent in their offices, to enable them perform their duties well.
Buvuma District.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker and members of Parliament, you are aware that multi-party system has done us more harm than good. Right Honorable Speaker, the Constitution of Uganda was made 22 years ago. And considering the fact that so many changes have taken place, I believe that the very Constitution that was made 22 years ago should also be amended to include some other issues that have come up in the last 22 years. Right Honorable Speaker, for instance, in the development of the country, so many people, even if we went multi-party system, some people, despite the party they belong to, some people, for instance, are NRM but opposition or FDC at night. I'm just giving an example. And others are FDC but NRM at night. And other parties. Right Honorable Speaker, according to my observation and the observation of others at large in this country, I'm not seeing any staunch person in support of the party that they belong, considering the activities that people do and the actions. This has hindered our development in the country, and people have been affected socially, psychologically, and economically. This is for the economic purpose. For instance, I want to give an example of the primaries that we go through. Right Honorable Speaker, the question that I want to put to the Prime Minister, in the amendments of the Constitution that I think are coming soon, do you have plans of amending the Constitution to include among the following, going back to movement system? Secondly,
Honorable Member, we do not debate in anticipation. It's a rule that you know. It's a rule that you know. Are you expecting a bill tomorrow? That would be anticipation. Ask things that are policy issues that we can discuss. Please. Please.
Right Honorable Speaker, straight away I want to ask the Prime Minister, do you have plans of changing for us to go to movement system, party system?
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, the matter my sister has raised, quite a number of people talk about it, but government intends to institute a constitutional review commission, and the people of Uganda would be at liberty to express their views as to how they would want their country to be better governed.
Bali, Gomba West, then I come this side, Kelak South, Erute, and Honorable Member.
Thank you so much, the Right Honorable Speaker. I want to ask from the Right Honorable Prime Minister, is government having a deliberate action to actually graduate in this country that they can employ or that can access employment, other than just graduating people sporadically and leave them to whom it may concern, just for like it is today? Very many people have graduated, you find they don't have jobs. Is there a deliberate move by government to harmonize employment and education or graduation of these Ugandans?
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, it is true there have been gaps in our educational system vis-a-vis jobs, but government is doing whatever is possible to ensure that the people we produce from our educational institutions are adequately skilled and prepared to take up employment or to create jobs for that matter in our economy. So that discrepancy is being rapidly healed by reform of the curriculum, by establishment of courses that specifically meet the national development needs of our country.
Gomba West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Right Honorable Prime Minister, in my constituency in Gomba West, there was an outbreak of foot and mouth disease, and the cattle have also been infested with ticks. As a result, the markets were closed, and people are finding difficulty in obtaining school fees, and the term is about to begin. I was wondering what plans are underway to give us drugs to cure us of this problem that we have. Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, it is true the problem of foot and mouth disease is known to affect the areas near Tanzania and the cattle corridor, in some areas of the cattle corridor. Efforts are being made to carry out vaccination and to assist people to fight against foot and mouth disease. But I would say that the responsible ministry, because of the importance of this subject matter, should be able to come and brief the country on measures that have been taken and are being taken on control of foot and mouth disease, and additional measures that need to be taken so that the population can be alerted, can be prepared to fight against this disease.
Kilak.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, can the government assure us how prepared we are to handle the crisis of the forthcoming Kenya presidential election? In the fact that, as we talk now, we have very many Kenyans who are crossing to Uganda. They are moving with their properties. They are coming to settle within Uganda with their families. And more so, you realize that Uganda, currently we are hosting very many refugees from South Sudan and other countries. Can you assure us how prepared we are in case of any eventuality that may come? Thank you.
Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, Uganda does not anticipate a crisis in Kenya. On the contrary, Uganda knows that there is going to be elections in Kenya after the courts had ruled, and at the same time, Uganda wishes our Kenyan brothers and sisters a peaceful election. Number two, East Africans are at liberty to move in East Africa. So those brothers and sisters from Kenya who have come, they are in East Africa and they are welcome. If, however, there was need to take extraordinary measures because of new developments that are not anticipated, government is more than prepared.
Erute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, can you explain the circumstances and the arrangement under which the First Deputy Prime Minister, General Moses Ali, and the Minister for Northern Uganda went with a German to Olwenyi Rice Scheme in Erute South and introduced him as the investor? And can you also elaborate whether the original plan of the Olwenyi Rice Scheme being owned by the community has changed and now is being handed over to a private investor? Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Moses Sali told me, and also the Minister for Northern Uganda, that they had a visitor who wanted to see the various agricultural related developments in the country, and they did this, and in my view there were no hidden schemes to either take this or that. It was really an exposure to this German guest about what Uganda was doing in the field of agriculture.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I would like to inquire from the Right Honorable Prime Minister, how safe and secure are our road reserves? Because in the recent past we have seen UNLA destroying people's property on road reserves that had been compensated for, but then because of laxity, people had started redeveloping in them. At the same time, I would like to find out what do we have plans to gazette all the road reserves on all the network of the roads in Uganda and actually make them wider so that it's cheaper in future to redevelop the roads and make them wider. Otherwise, the road reserves are too narrow, and the future is going to be, in the future, it's going to be very expensive widening these roads when people have developed in those areas. Thank you so much.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Member is right that the country is spending a lot of money because of earlier errors of getting too narrow roads with little or small space for expansion. It's true government is considering this, and the Minister of Works is working on this. And in addition, government is also considering the establishment of a utility corridor for various services like power, water, ICT, and the like, to be able to be accommodated in one corridor instead of each of the parastatals or ministries or agencies going to separately negotiate, pay compensation for whatever facility they may want to establish. So there is going to be more discipline, more orderliness in terms of management and expansion of road reserves, and we will also include a utility corridor for various utilities.
Buyaga.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. The Prime Minister, my question is, I am interested in finding out how your government decided to purchase 8 bulls at 5 billion. And where are the bulls? Where are the bulls? Then the last one related to that, if you can find 5 billion to just buy 8 bulls, when are you finding money to 3 billion required to set up a water gravity scheme for the people of Cheterekera, Mpefo, and Ndaiga, which the President has been pledging for the last 15 years for that? Please.
Right Honorable.
Well, Right Honorable Speaker, and Ndugutinka Simile's question about the bulls, I'm also interested in details of that information, and the Honorable Minister responsible for animals will be able to come and tell the House what the position is. So all of us are interested.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Recently, that is to be exact, last year, Kotido was given a municipality, and this municipality comes with a position of Member of Parliament. Right now in Kotido there is confusion, people are already campaigning, people have come up with their own roadmaps. I would want to interest myself to give them a very appropriate answer. My question to the Right Honorable Prime Minister is, when is the roadmap for Kuturo municipality and probably other municipalities coming such that elections are very well prepared? Thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, the matter of elections, election dates, are a prerogative of the Electoral Commission, and I would advise those people who are vigorously campaigning to really hold on until an authoritative statement from the Electoral Commission comes out. Otherwise, they may burn themselves out.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Arua municipality was among the 10 municipalities that benefited from an urban road project funded by World Bank. As soon as this project was completed, the government started digging around the same road they had built in a very expensive way in order to lay sewage and water pipes along the main junctions of the road. You have recently been in West Nile where you have enjoyed the quality of this road, but I'm surprised that the same government is digging water pipes and sewage lines on a road where they should have done that earlier. As head of government policy, program implementation and coordination, Right Honorable Prime Minister, what is your view on this kind of workmanship? Secondly, do you think we are getting value for money, especially knowing that we are borrowing from World Bank at a very high interest rate? It is the same donor, the same government doing haphazard work. I thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, the question the colleague has raised more or less touches the answer I had already given, that the government has established a committee of cabinet to look at utility corridors on our main trunk roads, and these utility corridors will include sewerage systems and other related issues. It is true that we have suffered substantial expenditure because of uncoordinated movements in terms of development, and that's why indeed government is trying to sort out this mess, so that in the future we don't have a recurrence of such wastage.
Honorable members, we had said we would handle Prime Minister's question time in an extended way up to 5 p.m. because the two ministers who were supposed to have made the answered questions were not in the House at the time they were called, but now they are both here. I expect them to render their apologies to the House and to the Speaker before we deal with that issue. So I'm drawing this to a close because we have gone way beyond 1.5 hours, which is within our rules of procedure. So I'm going to ask the Leader of the Opposition to make some comments and the Prime Minister to wind up, and then they call the ministers on another item.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, listening to questions from honorable members from all the constituencies represented here in this country, you can conclude that there is a problem from the government to provide social services to our people, especially in the areas of health, education, and roads. Right Honorable Prime Minister, I want to emphasize on some of the questions which were raised by members, and one, and to me which is serious, is about the deportees who were taken in from Israel and a commercial arrangement to this country. I'm asking myself these questions. Under what arrangement did the government allow these islands on this soil, on its soil? Because already we are overpopulated. To me, it is a serious problem. It's a serious challenge. I don't think it's a minister of disaster of in charge of refugees to inform this country, either the president or yourself as the leader of the government business. Secondly, has the government accorded citizenship to these people? By the honorable members, before you start this arrangement as a government, you should come and inform this parliament. But we just read these things in the media, and it's the order of the day. You buy, you read, and that's it. Then the third one, when are these deportees expected to leave the Ugandan soil? Another issue, right, Honorable Speaker, is about the issue of pledges by His Excellency the President. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have a big challenge on this issue of pledges. Right, Honorable Prime Minister, the district I'm representing, and this is and that's where my constituency, Kunjiri municipality. The president promised us a referral hospital, a district referral hospital. For the last 20 years, we have been waiting for this hospital. Up to now, we don't know. Maybe this time, as you have said, we are going to get this hospital. On the boards, Right Honorable Prime Minister, you are the leader of government business. How can you come and tell us here that those bulls were bought by the minister and you are not informed? Right Honorable Prime Minister, are you in charge? 5 billion to buy 8 bulls and you are not aware, and you are the leader of government business. Tell us if you are in charge, because to me this is a serious problem. The last one, Right Honorable Prime Minister, is about the status of operationalization of the public servants housing loan scheme in Uganda. How far? What is the status? Because to me, this issue is also very, very important. Right Honorable Speaker, I thank you.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'll just make a few remarks to what my brother Kajinda has said. As far as social services are concerned, if there is one single area where government has performed well, it is in terms of infrastructure, roads. We have also done well in the fields of schools and health services, in spite of some shortcomings here and there. But the overall trend is a positive one, and the government should be commended for these efforts. Number 2, the question of the deportees that were reported from Israel, it will be perfectly in order for the minister responsible for refugees to speak. He is the official spokesperson on this matter and will be speaking for government. So I would call people concerned.
Procedure, Mr. Speaker. Procedure, Mr. Speaker. Procedure.
I would call on people concerned to wait for the statement.
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
Procedure.
Tinka Simire.
Procedure.
No, it's not standing that determines.
Procedure.
If okay, Tinka Simire doesn't want. My sister. Okay. Now finally.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Procedure here.
Mr. Speaker,
Right
sir.
Procedure.
I raise on a matter of procedure. 1,
That, Mr. Speaker, sir, is it procedural okay for a person holding the floor to start taking over your powers and appoint people who should raise points of procedure? That having been said, the other procedural matter I want to raise is, we all know who is a refugee. A refugee voluntarily seeks refugee in another country. But where a person takes refugee in another country and that country picks him and deports him, not to his country of origin, but to a third country, is that still a person we can call a refugee and categorize as that? And the procedural matter now I want to raise, are we procedurally moving on well when the lead of government business continues to address this issue, the issue of almost human trafficking by one country to Uganda as a matter of refugees, and promising that this House will be receiving a report from that minister, instead of government coming here to address us about a diplomatic issue that involves Israel and Uganda? Mr. Speaker, are we proceeding well?
No, that's more of clarification from the Prime Minister. Yes.
Yes.
Procedure.
Right Honourable Speaker, this was a grave matter, not really mere refugees, but these are Israelis of Farash origin from Ethiopia. They were in Israel with their families, but then they were deported to Uganda under commercial terms for Uganda to benefit in terms of arms and equipment to hold these families, who are 1,400 in number. They were promised homes here. Right, Honourable Speaker. As a country and as Uganda, this cannot be taken as a refugee, but a certain country is deporting its own claimed citizens into Uganda and resettling them within the country without the proper procedures, without the citizenship, not even the arrangement as to when they would be leaving this country. So is the Right Honourable Prime Minister procedure right to misinform this House that what we are talking about are refugees, yet they are Israelis, nationals being relocated into Uganda? And under what circumstances are foreigners being relocated in Uganda, and until when? And is there a policy that is guiding this resettlement of foreigners by sovereign states? One country decides to lodge its citizens into another country and promises them jobs in that country for staying permanently without going back. Can the Prime Minister really address this matter as citizens of this country to know, since when have we been invaded by aliens, and for how long must we keep quiet when non-Ugandans are taking over our country? I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
But you see, now, Honourable Members, you have complicated this whole thing. Now, I don't know what we are talking about. Is it a deportation? Is it a relocation? Is it a resettlement? Because all of you are talking about deportation, whether a country, whether Uganda can deport its own citizens. That could be a matter that needs to be really examined properly, whether the country has the right to deport its own citizens. Are we using the word properly? But anyway, that's a brief from the Prime Minister. Honourable, Right Honourable, please.
Right Honourable Speaker, the matter is taken seriously. Nevertheless, we should be as orderly in dealing with it as possible. And that's why we said next week, government will come with a statement on the matter so that colleagues can discuss the matter with information from government. And I believe at the end of that discussion, we'll come to a position that will help the country.
We think you need to give guidance and direction. When are we having this statement? Right Honourable Speaker, let the Speaker put it to you.
Honourable Member, you think I need to give guidance? And you have just reasoned like that? I thought you would, if you needed me to give guidance, you would either write a procedure or something like that. But you don't just show up and say, Mr. Speaker, you need to give guidance. Honourable, You're a senior member of the House. Please respect the protocol of the House.
Question.
Procedure.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I raise on a point of procedure for a number of issues the Prime Minister has answered. He has pledged that the responsible minister will be coming to make a statement. And he has not committed himself when this is going to happen. Is it procedurally right for us to continue allowing the Prime Minister, the leader of government business, to hold us at ransom into the yeah, because for instance, my case,
Honorable
I asked
members,
him
Honorable
about
members, today we are really using words.
the cost of I asked him to tell me why his government decided to purchase 80 bulls at 5 billion. He said next week. He did not even mention next week. He said, I am interested in the information. The responsible minister will. When is he coming? Those are the things. Is he procedurally right to hold us at ransom by just taking us in a sea of the unknown?
Honorable members, we have a structural problem the way we are handling these things. When it is Prime Minister's question time, I do not actually expect the Prime Minister to defer questions. Why? Because we have a legislative program pronounced by the President as part of the business of this House. Well, matters that are already pending before this House, bills, motions, petitions, loan requests, and things like that, which is already in the order of this House. The Business Committee has ranked the priorities. So I don't think it is right. I was going to say this at the end. I don't think it's right for the Prime Minister to say the Minister will make a statement next week, because that means I have to alter the business of the House and accommodate statements that were not anticipated. But it comes back to us, because the kind of questions we ask should be policy questions that does not require any further interrogation to be brought back to the House. Because if you ask the Prime Minister factual things about potholes on the road, he may not know. Now he says, oh, the responsible minister will. The question that should be addressed to the Prime Minister should be practical policy questions that he can deal with, because he chairs cabinet, he sits in cabinet. We should not be asking questions that makes the Prime Minister say the minister will respond. Because this is Prime Minister's question time. So it should be, Honorable Member for Rukunjiri Municipality, we could benefit from listening. If you ask a Prime Minister a question he cannot answer, that means either the Prime Minister does not know what is in government, but the kind of questions you ask, those of you who have seen Prime Minister's question time in other jurisdictions, in other places, the questions are not spontaneous like these ones. The questions are submitted in advance, the research is provided, the Prime Minister comes with a dossier on all the questions, and he deals with them in Prime Minister's question time. But our circumstances were made it different. We refuse to submit questions in advance, so we find ourselves in this situation. But what I will not allow is for the Prime Minister to defer questions to next week, when I have business for next week already full. So what is going to happen is, if honorable members, you ask questions that cannot be answered by the Prime Minister there and then, they will not be answered. Yes. That means the kind of questions you should ask should be real policy issues that the Prime Minister can rise and brief the House about. That is the essence of it. For example, the policy on deportation or whatever you are calling them, yes, deportation or relocation, what is the policy? Why is this happening the way it is happening? Then like that, he would answer, he would be able to answer it. Because questions that start with, is the Prime Minister aware? If he's not, suppose he comes and says, I am not aware, so the second question does not arise. So, honorable members, you see, because we have tried to adjust our Prime Minister's question time to suit our circumstances, it is really work in progress. So let's do things that work. That things that do not turn around and completely jeopardize the business of this House. Please, I ask you, honorable members, I ask of you. So, please do not defer any business for next week, Right Honorable Prime Minister. You are not the business committee of this House, so you cannot do that. Deal with those issues that you can deal with here and now.
So let me thank the Right Honourable Speaker for his very good guidance, which I hope will be able to bring many colleagues on board, including Ndugu Tinka Simire. Now, Right Honourable Speaker, the last comment on pledges about a hospital for Rukunjiri, which has taken 20 years. Actually, Right Honourable Speaker, I'm fairly acquainted with this matter. The people in Rukunjiri disagreed on where the hospital should be. And this, I'm aware of this, whether it should be in the municipality or in Kebisoni. This took quite a bit of time to sort out, and this was one of the issues. This was one of the issues. Yeah, this was one of the
clarification. Right Honourable Prime Minister, I think you have got that information from former Minister of State, Honourable Dr. Chris Waliomunsi. That one was passed. Now we don't have any problem with the location at the district, and we even wrote to the ministry where this hospital should be put. So built. So I don't see why Prime Minister, you are telling us really that was some time ago. So Right Honourable Prime Minister, there is no problem now. If you are ready, please come. A place is called Ruamahwa in Rukunjiri municipality.
Right Honourable.
Okay, Right Honourable Speaker, we don't have to prolong this matter because, as you might know, in my service, I spent some time in the Ministry of Health, and this matter was one of the controversial issues. And by the way, this decision was taken about perhaps a year ago, but it's true, there was a lag of time because of that disagreement. So the question of bulls, I have already made reference to it, that we should get factual information because the Prime Minister doesn't have the details, and the issue of housing scheme for civil servants, this is something that government would like to do to support civil servants, be able to put up houses. And in fact, it started in some many years ago when the government sold houses where civil servants were living in to the sitting tenants, and subsequently some money was put in Housing Finance Bank, essentially to continue assisting civil servants. But I am aware that the ministry responsible for housing is working on a fresh program to empower civil servants to be able to afford houses. So I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Your guidance, Right Honourable Speaker, you said Chigwerawo, that it must be ended today. I didn't receive a response from the Prime Minister about the Israelis resettled in Uganda. Because since you've guided it won't be next week, can the Prime Minister have us answers to the same?
Right Honourable, that pending issue, please conclude with it.
Well, Right Honourable Speaker, this is a matter that has both appeared in the media, and government has also handled it. The minister responsible will be making a report on the matter. Yes, so that Parliament and the country can be better informed about this rather unique and intriguing matter. Because, as has already been rightly said,
Right Honorable Speaker, you guided everybody here, including the Right Honorable Prime Minister, that questions for Prime Minister's question time is for the Prime Minister. And questions asked here must be answered here by him. Is the Prime Minister, in order to go against the advice and the ruling of the Right Honorable Speaker, by continuously referring to a minister, responsible minister coming when you are supposed to finish here? Is he in order, sir?
I listened to the Right Honorable Prime Minister. He gave the answer he can for now. And he says the matter is intriguing, it might require a statement from a minister. But that does not mean we will wait for that statement, because ministers are at liberty to address this House on any subject relating to policy under Rule 44 of Rules of Procedure. A minister can come anytime and ask the clerk that I have this statement I'd like to make to the House. So they are at liberty on the pending matters that they have had that have not been properly clarified. And probably outside here, the Prime Minister could interest the ministers to urgently make statements to explain some of the things that are still in doubt. But the Prime Minister cannot say, well, we'll make a statement next week, because next week the House has its own business, which is already full. That's my guidance on that. So can we pause here with these matters?
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yes, Right Honorable.
Clarification.
To me, that concludes the subject matter. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, sir. I watched Al Jazeera 2 days ago, and they were saying that these people are still being brought to Uganda, and in total they intend to bring here 99,000 people. As we wait for the statement, I would like to be clarified, one, on where those who were brought are residing right now, two, on what the country is doing so that these people don't continue to bring other people until this House is properly informed and takes a decision about this matter, Mr. Speaker.
Right Honorable, did you watch Al Jazeera?
Right Honorable Speaker, I did not have the opportunity, as my sister, to watch Al Jazeera.
Honorable members, at an appropriate time, this matter will be addressed properly. Let's leave it at this. Can we deal with the questions which were deferred now? That I would like the ministers responsible to start with an apology to the Speaker and to the House.
Item number 6 on the order paper, questions for oral answer. Question 01/01/01.
Is the Honorable Lubogo Kenneth here? The Honorable Lubogo Kenneth is not here, as he designated another member to listen in and respond. If not, the rules are strict. A question cannot be answered in the absence of the person or the member who raised the question, unless another member is delegated to. Next item.
Question number 09/01/10.
Yes, the Honorable member is here, so Honorable Minister, please respond. You don't have to read the question. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to apologize. I actually came around at 1 p.m., but I was called and held up in a small meeting to attend to a serious emergency. And by the time I arrived, you had already called off the matter, but I do apologize. Right Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Member, Honorable Nambozi, wanted to know what interventions the government has regarding the management of the sickle cell disease. Right Honorable Speaker, we've made a statement on the floor of this House before regarding the sickle cell disease. And as you all know, this was declared a public health emergency by both the WHO and the United Nations. And it's very unfortunate, Right Honorable Speaker, I must admit this is one of the neglected diseases in country, and it was not until 2014 when we decided to do a survey in the country to know the magnitude of the problem. Statistics, Right Honorable Speaker, indicate that about 6 million people have the sickle cell trait, and about 250,000 are estimated to have the sickle cell disease. It's also estimated that about 20,000 to 25,000 babies born with the sickle cell disease do not live beyond 70 to 80% of these babies do not live beyond their 5th birthday. And this therefore implies that sickle cell patients require special attention, including regular checkups and monitoring in health facilities. We have, Right Honorable Speaker, been focusing on prevention. As you all know, the sickle cell disease is actually not curable and it's very expensive to manage. The only procedures that provide hope is the bone marrow transplant, which is very expensive and also risky. And it's not available in country, not even within the region, although we have plans, Right Honorable Speaker, to establish this service at the proposed Mulago Specialized Hospital. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we've been focusing on prevention, and right from the year 2013, we began commemorating the World Sickle Cell Day that falls on the 19th of June, and this is aimed at raising awareness. We have reached out to the cultural institutions because it's not easy. This is a genetic disease, and therefore people, once couples have identified, a man and a woman have identified one another, it is difficult to ask these people to separate or not to have children once they have appreciated each other. So what we have done, Right Honorable Speaker, focusing on prevention, is to reach out to the various stakeholders, including the cultural institutions and the religious leaders, and I want to appreciate Parliament for participating in the last Kavaka run. We commemorated the World Sickle Cell Day this year in Kamuli, and of course during these processes we actually screen people and of course also provide adequate information on what needs to be done when couples are found with this sickle cell disease or the trait. Other than screening, Right Honorable Speaker, we've had the newborn sickle cell screening in high burden regions. After the survey, Right Honorable Speaker, we got results, and it was actually found out that we have sickle cell, people living with the sickle cell disease, or people with the sickle cell disease or those with the trait are in all districts of the country. However, the burden is highest in northern Uganda, specifically Acholi and Langu, Busoga, parts of Teso, Bundibujo, Buganda here, and of course, Bukedi region, specifically Tororo and Busia. So other than that, the newborn screening, which is actually ongoing, all babies born in our health facilities, blood samples are picked and sent to the Central Public Health Laboratory, and results are sent back. We are also advocating for premarital, pre-parenting sickle cell counseling, vaccination against the pneumococcal vaccine, and of course, Right Honorable Speaker, the issue of cure and treatment is also another intervention that we have in place. We have over 40 sickle cell clinics that have been opened in specifically the high burden areas of Uganda that I have mentioned, mid-northern, northern, eastern, and central regions. The ministry, Right Honorable Speaker, is also working in collaboration with research groups in conducting a study on the hydroxyurea, which is a treatment that is available and improves the quality of care for sickle cell patients, but gives them a chance to live longer. So this is ongoing, and at an appropriate time, we shall definitely provide the information. Right Honorable Speaker, we work closely, of course, with various partners in this, aware that funding towards our interventions regarding sickle cell treatment has also been a challenge. So, Right Honorable Speaker, the other question that the member asked was what capacity does the country have to implement the required interventions? As highlighted in my introduction, the management of the sickle cell disease requires a multi-sectoral approach and interventions. The ministry, working together with partners, have developed the initial capacity required for early intervention, such as the National Sickle Cell Reference Laboratory that has been established at Butabika. And this, of course, does the newborn sickle cell screening. The laboratory has a capacity to run 600,000 tests annually and about 2,000 weekly. But of course, we have challenges of reagents. And we are actually now utilizing this, our capacity is at 25% because of limited funds for reagents. Right Honorable Speaker, the other question was that how does Uganda have a national policy on genetic conditions, especially the sickle cell disease? As I did indicate earlier, Right Honorable Speaker, we did not know the magnitude of the problem, but following the declaration by WHO and UN, we actually thought the problem was in Luwero and Bundibujo. But we then commissioned a survey, a nationwide survey in 2014, and the results showed that the problem was bigger than we thought. And of course, we do not then have a policy, but the ministry has drafted now a national policy on the sickle cell disease, which is undergoing consultations with the various stakeholders before it can be presented to Cabinet for approval. And of course, we'll bring it to the House for your information. What legislative agenda does the Ministry of Health have on the sickle cell disease? The first legislative agenda that is required is to have compulsory premarital sickle cell counseling and testing, the same way it is being done for HIV. And this, Right Honorable Speaker, will help reduce the new cases before couples make an informed decision on their marriages. The second legislative agenda is to have compulsory newborn screening for the sickle cell disease. This is already ongoing, although there is no law in place. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we hope that after the policy, we can then move into having this law. The last, Right Honorable Speaker, is the Ministry of Health aware that herbalists are peddling concoctions claiming to cure the sickle cell disease, hence fleecing people of their money? Has there been any effort to find out the safety of the herbs? Right Honorable Speaker, herbalists are a major challenge faced by our entire health system and society. Our people believe in these herbalists. We are actually aware that some of the herbalists have been providing information that they can cure sickle cell. We are aware of some of them, where they are. One of them, actually the most prominent one, is in Lira. But of course, the sicklers who have been going there have been testifying that they get relief when they get his herbs. However, Right Honorable Speaker, ignorance of the public about given disease gives herbalists flourishing ground to take advantage of the public. We have, Right Honorable Speaker, started massive awareness creation and sensitization campaigns about the sickle cell disease, also aware that most of our people have been relating this disease to actually witchcraft. So this is also another thing that we have encouraged the people to get to the health facilities, get screened and get results instead of thinking of witchcraft. And Right Honorable Speaker, you are aware that we have the Indigenous and Complementary Medicines Bill, which is before the committee, and we hope that the committee will prioritize this and bring it to the floor so that we can actually regulate this area, because it remains a gray area, not only in the management of sickle cell, but there are various herbalists. If you listen to our TVs, you will find them advertising themselves. And of course, our appeal to them has been to submit whatever concoctions they have to the National Chemotherapeutic Research Laboratory, which is at Wandegea, and actually they also major in this area. So it's under the Ministry of Health. So please, if there are any people in your communities, we cannot rule out herbal medicine because we know it is there. It's effective in some cases, but it must be tested. And this is the purpose of that bill, and we hope that the Committee of Health will bring this to the House. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, we know the rules. The rules give the authority to the member who raised the question to ask the supplementary question, and that's where we stop.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware of our rules of procedure. But, Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that touches health. Most probably the way I was touched, because of getting near children who have sickle cells, is maybe the way my colleagues might be touched. And I know, Mr. Speaker, you will be kind enough maybe to relax this rule, Mr. Speaker, for the sake of the health of our people. Having said that, and I humbly beg so, Mr. Speaker, my supplementary question is, yes, we have heard about the Kabaka's Run, and I'm so grateful to the Kabaka of Uganda for this initiative. I wonder whether government has reached out to thank His Majesty for this kind gesture. But what about other areas? If we know that cultural leaders can really reach out to people, why do you leave it in Uganda only? Who will run for the Basoga, whom you have said that the disease is there, too much of it, in Acholi, in those areas you have mentioned? Can't this be a policy that we request all these our good cultural leaders to be part of this crusade? And Mr. Speaker, sir, I've been a matron, a flower girl, a bridesmaid, but I've never seen anywhere we have gone in the church, and churches have required us all advise the couples, the intending couples, to take this test. With now 6 million Ugandans with the sickle cell trained, if we don't sensitize our people about the problems that will come with somebody with a trait marrying the other, in a few years we shall have millions of Ugandans with this disease. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, we talked about the herbalists, but I'm happy that my brother, Pastor Sematimba, is here. Even the Pentecostal churches, Madam Minister, the pastors are claiming to cure the disease. And unfortunately, when they go to pray for the patients, they advise them to leave the medicine. They say, if you believe in God, stop taking medicine, you will get cured. What are you doing about it? And Mr. Speaker, it is so sad that we need 5 billion shillings, equivalent to the 5 bulls, to immunize our children. But we can't find 5 billion as a country. And the minister has said...
Honourable member, please ask the supplementary.
The question I'm asking, please. Why is it that the minister addressed this matter to the speaker and not to in the cabinet? Because in her report she says that I raised this matter with the Speaker of Parliament. Surely we do the appropriation here. But the budget comes from the ministry. What is cabinet doing about this? How can we really fail to find 5 billion to immunize children against this very dangerous and painful disease, Mr. Speaker? I thank you.
Thank you. Any supplementary question from Kila? Supplementary question.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I would like to appreciate Honourable Namboze for raising this very important concern. It is majorly affecting my area. In Amuru district, Right Honourable Speaker, we have very many children who are having sickle cell. And it's true, people are ignorant. They do not know the causes. They do not know what is supposed to be done. The question I'm raising to Honourable Minister is, you talk of vaccination. I would like to find out what category of people are supposed to be vaccinated. Is it the children, the young babies, or the adult? Secondly, I would like to find out whether government have already started the process of vaccination. What I'm seeing currently, we have the polio vaccinations, the measles vaccinations, where the vaccinators move from village to village. But I've never heard about the sickle cell vaccination. Honourable Minister, I would like to find out about the vaccinations. Thank you.
No, it's limited. Supplementary question?
Right, Honourable Speaker, I would like to find out from the Minister. She mentioned the issue about bone marrow transplant and did not go ahead to tell us how much it cost, just said that is expensive. And also she didn't bring out clearly where it is done. Also, it would be important to list the hospitals in the regions that she talked about. Where exactly is government providing the services in those clinics? And what is the cost, if at all is provided at a cost?
Thank you. Let me finally have that honourable member, please.
Thank
Supplementary
you, Mr.
question.
Speaker. From the Minister's report, it is quite apparent that the disease burden, the sickle cell disease burden in Uganda is very big, because she talks about 6 million people. I was wondering whether the Minister has considered empowering the health centers that we have under PHC to get drugs for sickle cells.
Yes, Honourable Minister, the rules say you respond to them in 2 minutes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to thank colleagues for raising these concerns, but just to indicate that it is the Ministry of Health that reached out to His Majesty, the Kabaka, to join us in this campaign, because, Right Honourable Speaker, as I said before, Buganda region is one of the regions with the highest burden of this sickle cell disease. And that is why we felt we should start with Buganda and then roll out, engage other cultural leaders later. And of course, you know that the Kabaka Run attracts not only people from Buganda, but other regions as well. So we have not only stopped at that, we have engaged members of parliament. You turned up in big numbers for the talk, the breakfast meeting on the sickle cell to raise awareness. We gave you brochures and asked you to help us go out, because we can't be everywhere. Go out and please speak at these weddings about the same way we talk about HIV. Please talk about the sickle cell disease. We have also reached out, Right Honourable Speaker, to the leaders, the cultural leaders in Busoga. We had, Busoga is also another region where we have this challenge. And of course, just to inform you members, that the Right Honourable Speaker, Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga, is actually our sickle cell champion. And this is why you saw that statement in that document. So I did indicate to you that we are in Busoga for this year's commemoration. We've had other commemorations in Luwero, in Lira, where we launched that report. And of course, we've been to Bundibujo, where initially we thought had the highest burden of the sickle cell disease because they marry even cousins. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I think the question has been answered, Honorable Namboze. And of course, we've also, Right Honorable Speaker, held a meeting with religious leaders of all denominations. This meeting was held in 2015, and we took them through not only sickle cell, but also other health challenges, and appealed to them to join us in this campaign, because it's really, these are matters of the heart. And if you reach out to couples, you will hear what they will tell you. I have agreed to live with so and so, in good and in bad. So it is a very difficult thing to separate people, but of course, maybe with time, with the cultural leaders joining in, we shall be able to break that. Why did we raise it with the Speaker? I have already talked about that. And of course, Right Honorable Speaker, I said it very clearly, there is no treatment for sickle cell disease. There is no treatment. The only thing we can focus on is prevention, so that a person with the sickle cell trait does not get married to another with the trait. Once you do that, then you'll be able to produce children who do not have this challenge. But if two people with a trait get married, that's where challenges start. Or if a person with the sickle cell disease gets married to another, you will definitely get children with this sickle cell disease. So we are focusing on prevention. However, the hydroxyurea that I talked about is still undergoing research, as I said. But of course, it's being used to improve the quality of life of these sicklers. It's not a treatment, but improves the quality of life. So this is what is available. This is what we're trying to move on. And of course, I did indicate that even the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, we introduced this in 2013 in the country. It's available. It is part of those vaccines that are provided to children during their first year. However, we note that some children miss out on these vaccinations. They don't complete their vaccinations, so it's available for children 2 years and above. And Right Honorable Speaker, regarding the bone marrow transplant, this is a service that we'll soon have in the country once Mulago is up and running, the specialized facility. But abroad, the minimum cost for this, for only the service, is estimated at about 15 to 20 million shillings. But you have not added the air ticket and other medications. So it's not something very simple. It comes to about 30 or 35 million shillings that you will require. So those who are still members of parliament who are not yet married, please ensure that you screen and know your status and know the status of your partner. And if you have the trait and your partner, the one you have identified, have the trait, you can agree to live together, but do not produce children. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I think that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item. I'm advised that there's a member who will raise the question. The first question. Please call that question.
Question number 01/01/01.
The Honorable Abala is the one standing in for Honorable Lubogo. That's enough. You don't say anything. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to apologize. By the time this question was called, I stepped out to handle something. I do apologize. The first question which Honorable Bogo asked was, which banks does government partner with for the disbursement of the agricultural facility loans? Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, currently there are 15 commercial banks that the government of Uganda is partnering with to channel to disperse the agricultural loans. These include Stanbic Bank Limited, DFCU Bank, Post Bank, Uganda Development Bank, Bank of Baroda, Centenary Bank, Bank of Africa, Housing Finance Bank, Kenya Commercial Bank, Tropical Bank, Opportunity Bank Limited, Diamond Trust Bank, Barclays Bank, and Standard Chartered Bank, and Orient Bank. The second question the member asked was how much money has so far been dispersed for this purpose. Government of Uganda, Mr. Speaker, has to date remitted to the central bank 119.07 billion to cover the disbursement and commitments made since the inception of the program. We expected that would raise 240 billion by June 2017, but we have so far raised that with a shortfall of 120 billion. So far, Mr. Speaker, a total of 426 loan applications amounting 336.91 billion have so far been received at the Bank of Uganda, and out of that, we have been able to finance only those up to a tune of 119 billion, as I indicated above. The last question which was asked by the member was which category of farmers qualify for the loans. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, agriculture is a backbone of Uganda's economy. Therefore, all farmers' activities along the value chain, whether large, medium, or small, are eligible for qualification under this agriculture facility. There are 330 projects across the country that have benefited from the scheme, with key investment areas being agro-processing, machinery, tractors, farm equipment, irrigation equipment, greenhouse facilities, farm expansion and modernization, poultry, and related activities, including piggery and storage facilities. We hope that we'll be able to continue increasing this facility and also expanding the lines of credit and expanding the list and those who qualify for this facility so that we can majorly have an impact in the agriculture sector. That's what I can answer, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Straightforward, to the point. Supplementary question? The supplementary question must relate to the answer.
Exactly. Thanks so much. I want to thank the Minister for the responses to the questions presented to him. I have basically two. One is that, like he has talked about 119.7 billion has been disbursed and given to the banks to give out to farmers. It appears this money is benefiting purely the commercial farmers, but the subsistence farmers seem not to be benefiting from this. I want to inquire from the Minister what strategies he has in making sure the very poor benefit from these loans.
What categories have been given, what categories of farmers have been given this money? Full stop. Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, as I said, we have been facilitating. The loan facility is open to all farmers along the value chain. But it is true, those that have really been engaged in commercial farming have been they are the ones who have had an interest in this facility, but we are continuing to sensitize the farmers to inform them that this facility is available for all those who want to improve their business activities, especially in the agricultural sector.
Thank you. Honorable members, this brings us to the close of today's business. But in the gallery this afternoon, we have pupils and teachers from Moyak Bright Primary School, represented by Honorable Mogisha Lawrence and Honorable Chekwel Lydia Queen. It's written here Queen District. They have come to observe the proceedings of the House. Please join me in welcoming them. You're very welcome. Honorable members, thank you very much. This House is now adjourned to Tuesday, 2 o'clock.